Are we rolling?
It's a journey down the rabbit hole of rock and roll's past, present, and future. It's Barstool Rockers with your hosts, Jim Finn and Dan Michaels.
It is March 26th. Welcome to another episode of Barstool Rockers. Thanks for coming along on our journey today. Unfortunately, we have another passing in rock and roll to mention right off the top here. And as we get to our headlines.
Yeah, it's never fun to do these stories, but former Boston drummer Sib Hashian passed in this past week at the age of 67. He was playing on stage on the Legends of Rock cruise when he collapsed. Lou Gramm and Barry Goudreau were both on the tour, too. Hashian, of course, took over behind the kit from original Boston drummer Jim Maceda in 75. He was on the band's 76 self-titled album, including their trademark track, More Than a Feeling. He appeared on the 78 Don't Look Back, and then continued to work with Boston in a third stage album in 86, but was eventually replaced when Maceda was welcomed back into the fold. So he also played and recorded with Sammy Hagar, Ernie and the Automatics. He played with Barry Goudreau on the guitar's self-titled 1980 album. One thing a lot of people didn't know about, though, was that he was like a father. He was a second father to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The Rock dated Sib's daughter for years and is still dating. So
okay,
The Rock put a really touching tribute up to him, and we'll post a link to that. But one of the, he's musing that perhaps the lesson here is a reminder to live our lives as full and as present as we possibly can, because we just never know what's around the corner.
True words.
A lot of folks were paying tribute to him. Tom Hamilton, Lou Gramm, of course, Barry Goudreau, even Michael Sweet from Boston, who never had the opportunity to, record with him, but definitely had a lot of great words to say about Sib Hashian. So
exceptional drummer.
Very much so.
I never had a chance to meet him, but seemed like a really nice guy.
I would have loved to.
Yeah.
I always cite my meeting with Brad Delp as one of the highlights of my radio career, and I will always remember that. So,
in other news today, all signs are pointing toward Tool ending their boycott of streaming music. Bloomberg reports the band is in talks with the biggest services, including Spotify and Apple Music, about the best way to release their music ahead of their often delayed first album in a decade. Yeah, it's the past couple of weeks for Tool fans have been pretty epic because we've finally gotten some more Tool news. Frontman Maynard James Keenan declined to comment on the Bloomberg report. However, in past interviews, he described himself as a physical media purist who really just wants Tool albums to be consumed in their entirety, not as individual tracks.
I can get into that.
He told the Phoenix News-Times in 2013 that digital music is just this disconnected thing that you can't touch and feel and experience. Now, as for Tool's fifth studio album, the band announced in February that Keenan had commenced working on vocals, which is rather an auspicious update considering he typically avoids joining them in the studio until the vast majority of the music is written. But I did notice just a couple of days ago that they have been announcing tour dates, and we have one very close to our neck of the woods coming up in June.
Yeah. There's, boy, I had an idea for something to say a moment ago, and then my brain left.
What?
I love those days. Something new music.
Well, it must not have been very important,
or you
wouldn't have forgot it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve Martin. Paul McCartney has revealed that he's currently working on a brand new album with Greg Kurstin, the producer behind Adele's Hello and countless other records. Ex-Beatles bassist said, "I'm making a new album, which is great fun. I'm in the middle of that. I'm working with a producer I first worked with 2 years ago on a piece of music I'm doing for an animated film. It'll be his first solo album since New back in 2013. Paul said, my only worry is people are going to go, oh, there's Paul going with the flavor of the month. Of course, talking about the Adele producer, Greg Kurstin. He didn't reveal any details of what we can expect from the album or when we can expect it. So that's actually your world because you are telepathically connected. And I just figured out what I was going to talk about on the Tool album.
Yeah, let's go back to Tool, and then we'll get back into Mac. Yeah.
No, my thing on that was, he's talking about how the album needs to be listened to in its entirety. Mm-hmm. And I was going to go, it's a topic that, it's a topic that I go off on way too much probably for people, but the Neil Morse Band's Similitude of a Dream album.
Sure.
And once I get on that thing, I have to go all the way through. It just grabs you and pulls you in. It's kind of like Hunt for Red October.
You were mentioning, I think it was in last week's podcast, that that album takes you on a journey. Yeah. Well, you don't stop and make a whole bunch of side trips, or that you take the journey and that's it.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And it's a great album to drive to. And I've never, around the house, I have to plop myself down and just be ready to fully commit. So,
and there's a certain director that's been in my sphere a lot in the past couple of weeks, and he doesn't put chapter stops on his DVDs. So if you start the movie, that's it. Unless you pause it, that's it. You're not going to find the scenes individually.
That's a lot of fast forwarding. That is. That's a high risk. That's a high risk game there.
Now back to McCartney.
Yes.
All right. So a new album. What do you think? Flavor of the month as far as producers? He just recently he worked with Nigel Godrich, who had been in the studio with Radiohead a number of times. McCartney is a guy that in his long career has kind of gone with the flavor of the month several times.
If it's working,
if it works,
it's a fun experiment to play with.
Really, who cares as long as the product is good?
Well, the bottom line though is we all owe Kanye a great debt of thanks for discovering Paul McCartney.
My children, I hope you're listening to this because they will now be a member of your fan club for saying that. Well,
I say that in the greatest of disrespect toward Kanye, trust me.
Well, now they're off your band camp. Now forget it. But it was a good week for us as far as the U.S. Postal Service is concerned.
Excellent. Because, you got your gift and I got mine.
I got my beautiful gift here, the Flowers in the Dirt archival. Check this out.
That is quite the package.
Quite epic on that.
Is that fabric? That is a fabric jacket.
Yeah.
Let me move the beverage.
Move it. And like we were talking about last week, the controversy surrounding this thing is...
Did you get the MP3s?
It is the 4th disc. B-sides, remixes, and single edits. Download only. So not just some of the demos, because there's cassette demos also. Download only. Yeah, not happy about that, but still.
There's a lot of music in here.
Yeah.
There's Paul and Linda.
Yeah.
Lots and lots to be
A lot of great photos.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff in here. So,
as you know, when we decide we're going to make these purchases, you've got one coming up at the end of the podcast. You're going to tell us about our weekly purchases.
I actually have a couple purchases. One that came this week and another one I made this week.
Oh, what's the one you made this week? Can you want to talk about it now, or you want to save it? You want to save it?
We'll talk about it later.
All right. But yeah, I mean, some of these box sets are getting really. I'm not quite sure what that is.
There's a piece of plastic.
I don't know what that is.
That
was my first thought. Is what is that?
Yeah. There's the music.
But yeah,
cool.
This happened a few years ago when Pink Floyd put out the Immersion box sets.
Got all 4 of those.
I knew that you and I were both excited about those when they were released. You bought all 4 of them?
I have all 4 of them.
Wow.
The marbles, the
scarves.
The scarves, everything.
I bought
on the other side of that wall right there.
Wish You Were Here. I bought that one.
Playing cards. coasters.
Yep.
They're all still in their original packages, too.
Hey, what are you going to do?
I know.
Bankruptcy is coming. It's on the way.
There will never be retirement. There will only be bankruptcy, ladies and gentlemen.
While we're on the topic of Beatles-related stuff, Liverpool is planning a 3-week celebration to honor its very own Fab Four, the city that gave birth to John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo. I say that gave birth metaphorically. All right. Okay. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Metaphor allowed. Continue.
We'll honor the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which was released June 1st of 1967. The celebration, titled Sgt. Pepper at 50, Heading Home, will feature 13 events representative of the album's 13 tracks. The artistic director for the project said those involved will be using Liverpool as a turntable for the album. So it sounds like it's going to be a pretty cool event, blending paintings, spoken word, film, music, lots of different multimedia things. The different events will highlight the long-reaching influence the Beatles and their seminal album had on the world. Now, most of the events are free. Some require a ticket. For those of you listening to this podcast in Liverpool, great for you. You got a great experience. You'll be able to see there.
Road trip?
June 1st is the 50th anniversary.
That's before my vacation. So it's way before my vacation.
We've been talking about that trip over to the UK.
Oh, I know. I know.
So for more information, you can check out Sgt. Pepper at 50. Perhaps we will throw a link to that up on.
It absolutely will be done.
Awesome.
We talked last week about Fleetwood Mac a bit. Stevie Nicks in her interview. Well, Fleetwood Mac is in the news again this week.
No, go on.
Yes, McFleetwood believes the upcoming Fleetwood Mac spin-off album, which features the whole band except Stevie Nicks, is good enough to win awards. The banner of Buckingham McVie is what it's going to come out under, consisting of songs written by Lindsey Buckingham and Christine McVie, but it features Mick Fleetwood on drums and bassist John McVie. Fleetwood said it came under the heading of music that had to come out. Chris is full of vim and vigor, which is mind-blowing, and I'm really happy for Lindsey because this is what he likes to do the most, putting something together. It's really cool. I think they'll be walking down some red carpets with this one. The band had started work on a record together before Stevie Nicks decided she didn't want to take part. According to Christine McVie, though, it's an umbilical cord that can't be broken. It just pulls you back. As we said last week, Nicks plans to return in time for another road trip next year. The 2018 tour is supposed to be a farewell, but you take farewell tours one at a time, Christine McVie noted. Somehow we always come together, this unit. We can feel it ourselves, and it's just like the Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham connection. It's that lifelong, they're always going to be there.
What was the Al Pacino quote from Godfather 3? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I was trolling you. Either I was trolling you or our own Facebook page this week. I saw some conversation between you and somebody else talking about Stevie Nicks and the Fleetwood Mac thing. Do you remember that?
Boy, my memory's getting old as my vision changes.
I thought you had made a comment like, well, yeah, so it sounds like Stevie is definitely out and she's doing her own thing. I thought maybe
that was somebody famous and you just wanted to believe it was us or me or something.
I've been having some kind of flashback, I suppose. But this story, it's
all that Aquanet you were around in the 80s.
That was it.
It's coming back
to haunt me now. It just cracks me up. It makes me laugh. The first time, I don't know, when did the story come out? Beginning of the week?
Yeah.
Mick Fleetwood made the comment about how this next Fleetwood Mac album is going to be an award winner. Yep. It's going to win awards.
There were some chuckles.
Which made me just feel like he's dangling that carrot in front of Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, there's a drama. There's drama to everything, and I'm not sure I want it.
We got to think of the top dramatic bands, the bands that feature the most drama in them, and every band pretty much does. But Fleetwood Mac they are up there.
Oh, there's another story coming up here before too long about one of those bands.
Yes.
Going to Netflix here very shortly. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But in the world of contradiction, despite saying they wouldn't be touring much this summer, in a story we covered just a couple weeks ago,
right?
Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo are going on tour with Toto.
I thought we weren't.
I know. The first day you're going to stay home and write music and make music and record music.
Put out
and
the albums.
Put out the album. Yep. And now they're going out with Toto.
Okay.
So first co-headlining dates revealed include Los Angeles. That's going to be August 20th. Well, there's plenty of time because it's August 27th. That's a ways away. Yeah. The Beacon Theater in New York on September 14th and a bunch of others. Toto Steve Lukather had this to say. I've known Neil a long time. He's a fantastic musician. Pat's voice is one of the all-time greats, and we're super excited to join with them to do some shows this summer. I would completely agree with that. And Pat and Neil adding, looking forward to sharing the stage this year with our good friends and great players too. Toto, we've known each other for years, have never had the opportunity to do an extended tour together until now. Should be good times for all. So I guess, when you get into that situation, you really do, I guess, sometimes find yourself, well, who haven't we toured with? That'd be really fun. So maybe that's where they are on that one.
Right. And they always do put on great performances, and it is always good to see Pat and Neil out live doing shows. I just hope that they do continue with the putting out new material.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah, absolutely. There's always great music there. I remember one Saturday at a festival where Pat Benatar was on the stage in the afternoon, and Hagar was on that night, and Sammy was standing on the side of the stage, and they were just smiling and messing around with each other like crazy, just joking around and having a great time. And then Pat was on the side of the stage later in the evening when Sammy went out. So it was, it's fun to see those relationships and those friendships in music. And, this is another one of them. I hope it's a great time. How could you not have a good time?
You can't.
Being on the road with friends making music. That's
the best.
That would be the best.
Right. I'm slightly nostalgic because the teen years, oh, man. Pat Benatar and Debbie Harry back in the 80s. Whew. Spicy little numbers there.
Well, you go to the late 80s and we could think about Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. I think I'd rather think about that one.
Okay.
Like Pat Benatar and Debbie Harry.
All right, we were talking about drama in bands, and, well, here we go. Rumors about a feature film adaptation of, wait for it, Motley Crue's infamous and shocking 2002 biography, The Dirt. The Dirt. Confessions of the world's most notorious rock band. The Dirt. The Dirt. The Dirt. The Dirt. Wait, is that copyright? I don't know.
Wait a minute. I've only had like half of a beer. Can't be this goofy on this.
Slanche.
There you go.
we are back to the pinters of Trooper Red and Black Porter this week. So we've come full circle. It's been Rolling Rock for a number of weeks, which has been wonderful, and Dan has shared graciously.
Depleted the 12-pack. It takes forever.
Is it gone?
No.
Okay.
The first two that were taken were for the show. The second two, this show. The third two, this show. There should be 6 left.
Never invite an Irishman over to a podcast.
It takes a while for me to deplete a beer collection, whatever you want to say.
Well, The Dirt, Confessions of the World's Most Notorious Rock Band, comprised largely of direct testimony by band members of Motley Crue, have been circulating for well over a decade. Now, in 2015, The Hollywood Reporter reported that the project was being handled by Focus Features. But you can trace rumors about the movie as far back as 2003 when, get this, wait for it, when Johnny Knoxville was supposedly in talks to play bassist Nikki Sixx.
Why do I just not see that happening?
I don't see that as being a possibility. Nikki, of course, who once actually died for 2 minutes after an overdose of heroin and cocaine. Oh, those were the days, weren't they? Those guys were
Debauchery ruled backstage.
One thing I can't say about myself was that I died for nearly 2 minutes after an overdose of heroin and cocaine.
I did a lot of dumb things.
Yeah, me too. But and had a lot of fun. But I can't say that I never came close to that. Blabbermouth pointed out last year, Crew lead singer Vince Neil claimed to Las Vegas magazine that the film's script is pretty close to the book. So if you've read it, it's really something to look forward to.
And it's going to be on Netflix.
It sounds like it's going
direct
to
Netflix. So that'll be an interesting one there.
Yes, it will. You know, now we have lots of bands and performers doing the exact opposite of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll things from the heyday.
Yeah.
You know, now it's you have performers and bands that go out on the road and the backstage is completely different than what it was in the 70s and 80s.
Well, Nikki Sixx once made a comment, I think it was Behind the Music. He said, you know, the worst thing that could ever happen for our career would be for me to be photographed holding a glass of milk. I think it was.
Yeah.
So remind me when I put the webpage together. Yeah. I'm going to put a picture up that I took of Nikki in concert once upon a time, holding up a bottle of water. I don't know if that's milk or does that qualify? Is water's like accepted straight through. Milk would be, I guess. Well, anyway.
I don't know. But still, the street cred. It should have been a bottle of Jack.
Oh yeah, with colored water in it.
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
But Nikki's slowed down and accepts it. So
he has.
Yeah, their backstages were just ridiculous. First tour they did was chain link fence, 6-foot tall chain link fence for security. People were leaving there with crisscrosses all over their bodies. The backstage was just ridiculous, and even at the first time at our festival in our area,
that was kind of got out of hand. A little crazy.
There was discussion that they maybe pulled from stage, and I wasn't exactly sure what was being thought of there. But yeah, there was a certain there were two dancers on stage behind the band. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the band had no idea what was going on.
Of course not.
But the dancers pulled out a recreational device that was made of latex rubber and was colored red, and it was just.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I was backstage at a Bangles show one time, and that was just about as twisted. Because if you wanted to use the bathroom backstage at a Bangles show, boy, the things you had to do. Speaking of great live shows, for the Deadheads, their 1977 concert film, The Grateful Dead Movie, is going to be returning to theaters for one night only, celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. Runs more than 2 hours, will be supplemented with a bonus documentary also from 77. And it'll be doing a 7 o'clock local time screening when? April 20th. There you go. So that's coming up. It was originally shot on 16 millimeter film and was co-directed by Jerry Garcia. In the band at the time, Garcia, Bob Weir, Phil Lesh, Mickey Hart, and a cast of many, Bill Kreutzmann.
There you go, Deadheads. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, so we'll put a link to tickets and find out if you've got a theater near you on the website at barstoolrockers.com.
It's always great to see these archival things come out and get released, and finally, after years of sitting on a shelf somewhere, we're getting to see them. That's
well, cool. And to go see a show like that, I went and saw the Chicken Foot movie when it was in the theater because it was close enough to see, and I was just, it was great.
Yeah,
seeing it, and they didn't, they weren't conservative with the sound; they let it rip. That was a great thing.
Did you go to see the Justin Bieber movie?
No, I
missed that
sorry, I didn't. Yeah. I couldn't. I didn't have enough energy because I knew I would expend it all. Yeah.
It takes a lot out of you.
I know. Yeah.
That's what the Biebs does.
Yes.
Record Store Day takes place this year, April 22nd. We're just going to cover this briefly. Record Store Day becomes more epic each and every year. Highlights of some unreleased Smith demos will be part of Record Store Day. Some David Bowie album sets, several Prince 12-inch singles, New music from Animal Collective, live albums from Springsteen, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed, The Grateful Dead. Other artists releasing Record Store Day exclusives include Fleetwood Mac, Neil Young. In Fleetwood Mac, it's a Mirage alternative, I believe.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be
maybe kind of
interesting.
cool. Neil Young, Air, Motorhead, The Ramones, The Cure, Pearl Jam, Pink Floyd, U2, and The Fall, just to name a few of
Def
the artists.
Leppard has that original EP on there, too.
Yeah, and Pink Floyd has the Interstellar Overdrive 12-inch vinyl
Yeah.
for Record Store Day. Def Leppard, the EP, getting a special EP. It is the one that launched their career, getting a special vinyl reissue from Mercury Records.
And there's, I did put something on the Facebook page yesterday. There was news about the Toto EP that's coming out with Africa on one side and Rosanna on the other. It might be both on one side, and it's shaped like Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be very
That's cool.
So yeah, we may have to do a special. We may have to get into the Record Store Day here stuff. The Record Store Day stuff here sometime.
Yeah.
A little more in depth and maybe, the Jack White stuff we were talking about and pressing vinyl in Detroit and just how big that's getting. And they're staying busy. They're nonstop busy there.
So are you going to haul the turntable up from the basement?
I should.
Get that hooked up?
I should. I could put it in here somewhere.
Yeah.
You got tools over there. You got the printer. You got the computers over here. Might have to go on this table. I don't know. Not exactly sure. Kansas, a band that rose to popularity in the days of vinyl. They're like the Energizer Bunny. They, too, just keep going, and they're lengthening their anniversary tour celebrating Leftoverture. Second leg of the Leftoverture 40th anniversary tour begins March 24th in Salina, Kansas. More than 30 dates stretching from late summer into December have now been added. Sessions for their next album should be beginning in January, with a release date pegged for later in 2018. By then, Kansas hopes to have started a tour focusing on the Point of No Return album, the 4 times platinum follow-up to Leftoverture. So,
well, you're in charge of the edits, so I feel like going rogue and going stream of consciousness here. So we're going to just try and experiment here. Favorite Kansas album?
Oh, man. I'd say Leftoverture.
That's it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
Favorite Fleetwood Mac album?
I liked, was it The Dance?
Okay.
I really liked
was more of a recent
reunion,
one.
Yeah, the reunion album. But it had a nice emotional attachment. It was one of those, again, that pulled you in.
Mm-hmm. Favorite McCartney album?
Man, I got to go back to Wings Over America, just because it takes me back to my childhood and great memories of living in a old beat up house, banging on drums,
playing alongside Joe English from Wings on Wings Over America. There. Well, I was trying to think of the other bands that we've talked about in the podcast here today.
Yeah, well,
Def Leppard. Favorite Def Leppard album?
Wow. Probably Hysteria.
Okay.
It had a cool sound, and it was like a triumphant return. You had Pyromania, and Hysteria still had Steve Clark too.
Okay. Well, that's where my experiment ends.
Okay.
Just a little experiment there.
Jeez. We are really strange today, and only one beer.
Yeah. Well, the one beer, when it's a pint of Trooper, apparently does it.
Or I think the mood is just good today. We've done this before.
You know why it is?
Oh, that's right.
We have a mascot.
You've got, yes. The demon is on the table.
Yes. For This Week in Kiss, I figured since Stasia was awesome enough to create the music for This Week in Kiss, we needed a mascot.
So we'll get to that in just a bit here.
Well, we were talking a few weeks ago, and we actually got kind of jazzed about it, that there was going to be this huge David Bowie monument put up in his hometown of Brixton. Yeah, I guess that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
South London will not be getting a 3-story lightning bolt statue to memorialize David Bowie after all, which is kind of a bummer because it sounded so cool. Last month, a crowdfunding campaign was launched to raise £900,000 to erect the Ziggy Zag sculpture near the rock icon's birthplace. But now, sadly, the campaign has ended and the goal was not reached as fans raised just around £50,000. Still, no chump change. It was like $62,000 in American money of the total amount. None of the funds will be taken. Organizers say they hope to create an alternate, appropriate piece of public art. Share with us. Oh, you're going to take a picture, aren't you? You got
at some point, I'll take a picture. Yeah. We have the visual aid, of course, earlier this week arriving from Royal Mail in London, the David Bowie stamps, and I just kind of set up a little display here that we'll take a picture of. On one side, we have the Pink Floyd stamp collection. On the other side, I'm not even a stamp collector. I know there's a word for them,
but those are cool.
They're cool. Yeah. On the other side, we have the Bowie stamps, and then in the middle, of course, the Gene Simmons.
The God
mascot. Yes. So we will get a photograph of that before we pass today.
You, my friend, have the patience of a saint because you got those stamps in the mail
on Monday. Or Tuesday. Monday it was, yeah.
And he waited for me to haul my tired ass over here so he would unbox them. Meanwhile, I got my Flowers in the Dirt box set
yesterday. There was music there.
I could not wait. No disrespect, Dano.
There was music there.
It was just. But the U.S. Postal Service was very, 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 very good to us this week.
They were happy with us, that's for sure. Pink Floyd has a 1972 video that just came out, and it is What's the Deal, with a lot of archival photos and things in it. So that came out this past week. I did post it on the Facebook page. We'll post the video on the episode page for today, too, over at barstoolrockers.com. But it's really, really kind of cool. Just looking back at those old pictures that were in there.
Yeah, and former Pink Floyd drummer Nick Mason, lucky to be unharmed following a race car mishap at the Goodwood circuit. Mason ran into a wall Sunday on a parade lap, apparently in his McLaren F1 GTR. He was driving at a low speed, was able to get out of the car on his own.
I saw the video,
Yeah. So, again, Nick Mason's a badass, man. He likes to live life on the razor's edge. He likes those. He's like the
$3 million.
Harrison Ford of the music world, apparently. Yeah. $3 million. Favorite Pink Floyd album?
Oh, gosh. Wish you were here. That's another one of those complete journey albums.
Yeah. That might be my favorite, too. But Animals. Oh.
Well, and that takes you back then to WKRP.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of Pink Floyd, one more time here, they released a video clip from a 71 documentary that appeared as part of their early years collection. The excerpt deals with the experience of being bootlegged and is included in the individual volume of the early years 71 Reverberation. So, as he streams.
Would it be too much to do a This Week in Pink Floyd as well? Because we've been talking about Pink Floyd.
There's been a lot of Pink Floyd news lately, and I'm happy about it.
I don't know if we can get a mascot for that unless we get a large inflatable pig. Pearl Jam guitarist Mike McCready is about to publish a photo book comprising an array of Polaroid pictures taken over recent years. It's called Of Potato Heads and Polaroids: My Life Inside and Out of Pearl Jam. It'll arrive in May. If you're wondering what the Potato Head connection is, apparently Mike McCready, guitarist for Pearl Jam, hauls around a Mr. Potato Head toy with him, I guess, whenever they hit the road. So,
well, it gives you a good reason to take a picture. It's a conversation starter.
Exactly. He has carried his Polaroid camera on countless Pearl Jam tours and throughout his own travels, documenting everything from concerts, art, candid shots of friends and family. The book will be packed with other famous faces, candid shots including pictures of Neil Young, Paul McCartney, Sting, Dave Grohl, Bono, Jack White. Dustin Hoffman squeaked in there somehow. Yeah. So
if you want to go backstage at Pearl Jam, you got to have your picture taken with a Potato Head.
Yeah. Pearl Jam spent much of 2016 on the road celebrating their 25th anniversary. McCready also reunited with his early grunge supergroup, Temple of the Dog. Pearl Jam gearing up for their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the band will perform at the April 7th induction ceremony. Looking forward to that. It's the group's only scheduled 2017 date so far, although Eddie Vedder will play a string of solo shows in Europe this summer. By the way, U2 guitarist The Edge is also publishing a photo book this year as part of the 30th anniversary of the Joshua Tree. Bryan Adams has won awards for his photography, while Andy Summers has had his photos featured in numerous exhibitions.
A cornucopia of exhibitions. Speaking of Andy Summers, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the Police's formation, but the big plans apparently are afoot for next year's 40th for the Police debut album. Summers saying, I think it's going to be a huge repackaging and selling of everything next year. It lives on. It's all around us all the time. There's one half of you that just doesn't care because it was such a long time ago. And another part is that you do care about what nowadays would call the brand, making sure it serves you in the right way. We don't ever get too far away from it. So
I've been trying to wrap my big fuzzy noggin around this one for a while here. The Police and a 40th anniversary. That one just makes me feel old. It just does.
You remember?
How can that even be?
You remember back to watching Synchronicity 2 on MTV, wondering what the heck they were doing.
Yeah. Favorite Police album?
Synchronicity.
Yeah. I like Ghost in the Machine. I think I'm going to go with that one. I do like Synchronicity.
Contrarian.
Yeah. You know me. Queen is releasing their own version of Monopoly. You get the Queen Monopoly set. I think you put this on our Facebook page this week. The new game's going to be out in May. It will feature key moments in the band's career. Brian May recently posted details on his website saying, we've been very secretly developing Queen Monopoly for over a year. It was a blast working on it, like making an album, I guess. We hope you love it. So Queen Monopoly, and of course the classic Monopoly game, has decided to ditch the thimble and the wheelbarrow and so there's 900 billion copies of different Monopolies that you can get
this week in Monopoly.
And you know, when I went into the store to get our Trooper beer today, I also noticed the Megadeth beer. I thought about it briefly, but my heart lies with the Maiden. So
there you go. Well, and there's Iron Maiden news too.
This is very cool.
Iron Maiden reissuing 12 albums on vinyl, and they are going into a box set too. Nice. So yeah, it's a 180-gram vinyl series. Will start in 1990 with No Prayer for the Dying, and it'll have the Book of Souls as the latest. So.
Second mortgage on the house again. Hopefully these ones will sound better than the recent remastered version. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago.
Your divorce is pending.
Yes. The wife is listening. Oh no.
So yeah, that's something for Maiden fans to be looking forward to.
Oh yeah, when do those come out? Is that a record store day thing?
No.
Does it say? I'm wondering about the price on this one as well. A box set collection of Maiden.
It'll come out in waves. Excuse me. It's not a box. The first set will come out on May 19th.
Okay.
The second set on June 23rd, and the final set on July 21. So maybe I saw a picture of all of them emerging from a box. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can buy the box separately. Wow. Accessories. Well, you got to accessorize.
Mr. Michaels is trying to destroy my personal pocketbook.
I'm working on my own too, trust me.
A week ago, we had just finished, I kid you not, we had just finished the podcast. I got home. It was like a couple of hours later. He Facebook messages me and sends me details on the cruise to the Edge with Yes and Marillion. It's like, are you trying to bankrupt the man or what?
Well, I'm planning a vacation for later in the summer, and it's going to be a trip down to the south.
You going to take that trip?
I'm going to take the trip. I bought the tickets yesterday.
You did?
Yes. So I did not get the VIP tickets, but I will be going to Morse Fest down by Nashville. So
good for you.
The VIP tickets were $350 a piece.
Not bad.
So that'd be $700 a night.
Yeah,
that's a lot of bank for VIP. I'm going to be happy sitting in the GAs Now I just have to figure out who's going to be sitting with me. So
right, and the flight probably won't cost you that much.
I'm going to drive it.
Are you going to drive it?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got an iPass.
Yeah. See, that's different for me when I go to Marillion, because when I've gone to the Montreal shows, the ticket has been, this is for 3 days. They don't do a VIP thing. It's been like $150 per ticket for 3 days. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
3 nights of completely different music. That's pretty good. But then you got to factor in the flight to Montreal in there and the hotel rooms and everything. So
the Morse Fest tickets were $75 a night, but they're $1.25 for the 2-nighter.
Okay.
So I went that way.
Yeah.
Bought a pair.
I'm just glad you're going, man.
And then there's another event a couple days later over in Georgia. That's a big prog event that Haken is playing at.
Oh,
and,
I think I saw you.
Portnoy's Supergroup is playing
Yeah.
at. So I'm really...
Do it.
I may have to
Just
try
do
to
it.
make a phone call and see if I can get a pair of tickets that are allegedly sold out, but I might know somebody who can help, so I'll have to find out.
Do what you can do.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan is planning a North American tour. The trek is scheduled to start in mid-June. You can get all the details at bobdylan.com. Or I suppose we could probably...
We can put the link on the page, too.
His first triple album, Triplicate, will be released at the end of the month, so that's coming up.
That was the one that does the covers, isn't it? He's doing Sinatra covers in there and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Todd Rundgren, speaking of new music, has gone a whole new route, depending which way you want it.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
For his upcoming album, White Knight, bringing in a host of guest artists this time. Cleopatra Records will release it on May 12th. And guest appearances from Daryl Hall, Donald Fagen, Joe Walsh, Trent Reznor, Joe Satriani, Bobby Strickland, Dem Funk, Moberg, and a bunch of others, including his son Rebop. So he wanted to collaborate not just for the musical possibilities, but also to play for new audiences and expose my fans to the range of artists I work with. So that's cool.
Rebop Rundgren.
Well, it's the anniversary of Mbop, so why not Rebop?
I am so unoriginal when it comes to kids' names, man. I just feel like such a loser.
That's life. We don't all
have Rebops.
No,
in our
we
lives,
don't all have unique
or moon
lives.
units.
Yeah, there you go, or Dweezil, or Ahmet, or just the Who is deciding. We were talking about these guys playing in Vegas last week. They decided that as long as they're in the U.S. for their Vegas residency, they're going to play a few more shows. So they've added 4 dates to the 6 that they're already doing at Caesar's Palace, including one in New York, one in Maryland, and Grand Rapids, Michigan, ahead of their Vegas dates.
And the Magic 8 Ball says you will perform 2 of those. All right.
What are you going to do if they make it through all of them? Especially given that there's one in Michigan.
Like I said in the last podcast, if they play them all, good for them. I'm grateful that they played them all and that the fans got to see, because The Who's one of my favorites. If they play them all, I wish them the best in the shows, and I wish them the best in their health. Pete and Roger, especially for Roger. I know Pete is struggling with several things too. The hearing issues, and they're not getting any younger, but
if I can still be functioning when I'm that age, I'll be really happy.
It's an amazing thing. 70 is the new 50? Because I don't know. McCartney's still out there putting 3-hour shows.
Then I'm 22 again.
There you go. So I wish him the best of luck. I hope they do it.
Speaking of the
Roger, by the way, one of my favorite rock and roll vocalists. Yeah. One of them.
Speaking of folks that are getting up there, the Stones, kind of a landmark not big landmark, I guess, celebrating 1-year anniversary this weekend of playing in Cuba last year on the 25th to 1.2 million people.
Crazy.
That was just an amazing audience. So that kind of covers the main stories that we've got pulled for this week. We do have some music to talk about, but I think before we get to that, we need to move on and do...
Is it that time?
It's that time. It is time for...
This Week in Kiss.
Well, they went through a number of people when they replaced Ace Frehley originally, and A gentleman named Bom Adams was one of them. He was invited to the audition. He was a massive fan, got to the rehearsal studio, and as he tells it, regardless of how it went, he was going to be living up to his dreams. I wanted to scream, but I kept my cool. It was just me in a room in Hollywood playing lead guitar with Kiss. He'd be playing Firehouse, Detroit Rock City, Black Diamond, and calling Dr. Love with the band. He knew before he even left the building, though, that he hadn't gotten the gig. Gene Simmons told him he was just too good looking. So, yeah, and that's when they ended up with Vinnie Vincent in the band. Also in Kiss news this week, actress Katie Sagal revealing she had an on-and-off relationship with Kiss icon Gene Simmons in the 70s and says it ended when she discussed marriage and he laughed at her. In her memoir, she talks about meeting Simmons in a bar in Santa Monica where she worked as a singing waitress. At first, I thought he was really weird. She was right.
Yeah.
She said, I took him home with me that night because he was quite persuasive and I like men. So that went on for quite a while. Yes, the demon. He demon
watches
mascot. Yes. So Simmons, of course, mocking marriage openly to the degree that his bandmate Paul Stanley did not invite him to his 2005 wedding. And then he very publicly on TV, nonetheless, in Simmons Family Jewels, tied the knot with longtime girlfriend Shannon Tweed in 2011.
And they are still together, correct?
Yes,
right? And that is shocking.
Oh, and they got Sophie and Nick, and they seem like really, really
pretty well-grounded.
Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Would you say more so than the Osborne kids?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, I would.
Though they're kind of pulling their act together, right?
Seems to me, yeah.
I mean, your dad is Ozzy.
Yeah.
Who would you rather have as a dad, Ozzy or Gene?
Wow. Wow. I guess if you want fun, Ozzy. If you want money, Gene.
Sure. If you want to laugh, Ozzy.
Yes.
If you want to be well taken care of,
Gene. I am. Yeah. And this was the 35th anniversary this weekend, actually, of Ozzy coming out of hibernation after losing Randy Rhoads, and he made an appearance on Dave Letterman. I think we posted that over on the Facebook page, and we'll throw that on the video stack for today's episode as well. Some other music to talk about here.
Young Dan Michaels playing drums up on stage with Kiss, playing Black Diamond. How cool would that be?
Did
were you a member of the Kiss Army?
Talent show when I was in, I want to say 6th grade.
Oh, here we go.
And we had, it was a playback thing, so you got up there with your buddies, but we had all sorts of costumes and stuff, and it's a blur.
You got any photos of this?
No,
oh, come on.
That's the one great thing about, where I am and when I grew up. There's not a lot of photos out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, my reason for being in this podcast is to derail Mr. Michaels as much as I possibly can and find out more dirt on his young days.
The derailing began in my radio days when I was a note hound. Used to read everything, and they kind of did a WKRP to me at the Iowa State Fair once upon a time, and somebody lit the notes on fire, and I was sitting there going... Learned how not to read with notes, though.
It doesn't work.
Then we started doing this podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see here. April 21st coming up before when's Record Store Day?
22nd.
Okay. April 21st, the day before that, Richie Kotzen's album Salting Earth will be out, and that's we have that video over on the Facebook page. Also, the Allman Brothers Band announced an 8-disc Fox box. That's coming out, and... it'll be every song from a 3-night run in 2004 at Atlanta's Fox Theater. So that'll be a very cool one for the Allman collectors.
And, they're making money off of this, and vinyl is huge, and people are putting out. That's why Record Store Day becomes more and more of an event every year, and you see more artists putting out releases and everything. But, like we've been talking about, if you're a fan, you're a fan, and, you get to pick up on a lot of really, really cool stuff. I know I picked up a a Syd Barrett release from a couple of years ago on a Record Store Day, and a live Pink Floyd album, which I think they're also reissuing this year for Record Store Day. And they're just awesome. They're solid.
Cool. Some other stuff coming before too long here. If you remember the song Children of the Sun, the last great Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs tour released on CD. That's going to be coming up here. Historic live recordings from Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs Australian in 1994 have been released for the first time, and that's out there. Of course, we lost Billy Thorpe several years back.
Right.
It'll still always be one of my favorite songs.
That's a great
classic
song.
rock.
Yeah,
Also, here's an interesting one. I listened to the song the other day, and I'll add that into the link farm.
That marriage of keyboard and guitar on that song is just incredible. Yeah. I mean, the song just builds perfectly.
Well, and we were talking about Toto earlier, and I mentioned that Leland Sklar will probably be the bass player for Toto on this tour. I would imagine he has been for the last several.
One of the greats
who played bass on Billy Thorpe's tour and album. Leland Sklar.
Yeah.
Said it was the biggest bass rig he'd ever played on.
Really?
It was just an amazing one. There's a guy we should try to get on sometime.
That would be cool.
He would be an amazing man to get on, and especially, he's
James Taylor, Joni Mitchell,
so many
artists
that he's worked with. Yeah, it's just the list.
Crazy.
The list is endless. One of the leaders of the Mellow Mafia.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah, definitely. Another kind of super group, if you will, to look forward to is called Snake Charmer, featuring former members of Whitesnake. Original Whitesnake members Mickey Moody and Neil Murray teamed up with Laurie Weisfeld from Wishbone Ash and Harry James from Thunder, Adam Wakeman from Ozzy Osbourne, and Chris Owsley from Heartland. And they're doing a twin guitar rock album. And there was a song out there, and it's really good.
Well, you got some good players there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then another story that just came out this week about some new music coming up is for fans of Saxon. They've got a new album they're going to be aiming for January of 2018.
Cool.
So
haven't heard that name for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that and I was like, whoa. Yeah. Definitely worth sharing that one. So.
Yeah.
So, we came into today not thinking we were going to have a whole lot, and as usual, it turns into a lot.
When we pontificate, it turns into a lot. Yeah.
When we BS, what? I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody for listening, of course, and thanks to Joe Kelly for being the voice that brings us into this thing. Also, thanks to our friend Stasia for creating the music that sets the mood. And thank you all for listening. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a couple ways you can do so. First off, we've added a page to the website where you can drop $1 or $2 in the tip jar. Just go to barstoolrockers.com, click on support at the top of the page, and you can toss us a couple shekels if you'd like to. It's always appreciated to help with the website costs and bandwidth for the podcast, etc. Another way you can support us is just to listen or to subscribe to us on iTunes. If you like what you hear, please rate or review the podcast. Helps the show rise in visibility and helps new listeners find us. Also, if you like it, share the link with folks who might like it too. You will find links to many of today's stories at barstoolrockers.com. Just click on the episodes page. You can also check out our blog pages, which we've been kind of slack about. We've got to get on that. And,
we'll get on that. We've been going through some busy weeks here, but it'll eventually simmer down, and we'll get back onto that.
We will get our butts moving and get back into it. So.
Yes. We got some interviews coming up real soon that I think you'll want to check out.
Yeah.
And words of wisdom as we head into the week, as the weather is finally starting to get a little warmer and the snow is hopefully gone, pouring now.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I was looking at an old journal just a couple of days ago, and I was looking at 2013 and the shows I'd seen in 2013. I had seen so many shows in that year. Garbage, The National, I think Arcade Fire, and I just saw Gary Newman. I'd never seen Gary Newman in my entire life, and in 2013, I finally got to see Gary Newman live. So, with this, I'm going to say, as the weather's getting warmer, do what Dan Michaels did and jump on those tickets if there's somebody you want to see live, even if it financially straps you for a little while, figure it out. Just do it, because we're seeing a lot of these living legends, and we're losing a lot of them. And if the music moves you at all, go see it perform live.
Well, like The Rock said, perhaps the lesson here is the reminder to live our lives as full and as present as we possibly can, because we never know what's around the corner.
Who knew that we would get such philosophical words from The Rock?
From The Rock. He's right.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great week.
Well, that about does her. Wraps her all up.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.